I can't wait for my new filming setup. It's going to be so nice. All right, you guys, we are back talking about Gypsy Rose Life After Lockup, episode 2. So we're picking up in this episode where we left off in the last episode, where Gypsy is on the phone with her Missouri parole officer, and he's telling her that she needs to leave the state of Missouri and head to Louisiana immediately. And it's very emotional. Things are just chaos right now. Gypsy's freaking out. She's not sure what's going to happen. She's not sure if she's going to be able to spend any time in Kansas City with her family, or if they're going to have to hit the road immediately. And remember that she got out of prison at like 2:30, 3 o'clock in the morning the night before. So, or that morning. So she had probably been awake the whole night before, and they hadn't slept at all, pretty much in that whole time. So for 2 days, they haven't slept. So they really need at least one night in Kansas City in order to be able to handle the drive to Louisiana. So they finally do figure everything out with the parole officer, and they allow her to stay in Kansas City for that one night, and leave the next day. Basically, the Missouri parole office is the one that is in charge of Gypsy, and the one in Louisiana is going to be her parole officer in Louisiana, but the Louisiana parole officer will report to the Missouri parole office. So at the end of the day, Missouri has the final say in whatever. Even if the Louisiana officer gives her permission to do something, she still needs the approval of Missouri. So she wasn't able to stay in Kansas City to go to that Chiefs game. So they got all of that figured out. One thing that I wanted to take note on here is that TMZ immediately reported that she wasn't going to be going to that Chiefs game and that she had to leave Louisiana. And that was literally like the day after her release, the day of her release. So I just found that to be rather interesting. And I'm pretty sure that either Gypsy herself or someone within the family, like, they are in cahoots with TMZ. Like, they have to be. For the TMZ to have so much information about Gypsy, they've got to be selling stories. Like, someone in that family is selling the story, somebody very close. So if she's not doing it, whether she's working with her family members to do that, or if somebody in the family is doing it, I definitely feel like somebody is leaking information to TMZ or selling it or whatever. That's just my speculation on it. I just find it rather interesting that TMZ has all of the information about what is going on with Gypsy. Like, nobody would know any of that other than herself, Ryan, and her family. All right, so after we get all of that parole officer nonsense out of the way, and they decide that they're going to leave the next morning, they are able to actually like enjoy the night together as a family, and they celebrate Christmas because she was released on December 28th, so she was still locked up during Christmas. So they set up a tree in this rental house, and they decided to celebrate Christmas that day. But actually, right before we get to the presents thing, I forgot. Mia sits down with Gypsy and has a conversation with her about birth control. Because, of course, Ryan and Gypsy's sex life is a big part of the show for whatever reason. We talk about it a lot. So Mia, even though she's the younger sister, she's kind of taking on an elder sister role here because she kind of views Gypsy as she put it, a newborn little baby. And, you know, she's out in the world for the first time as an adult. And she just wanted to make sure that Gypsy was being careful. Gypsy agreed. Gypsy says she wants to have kids, but she feels like the timing is not good right now. I think, knowing what I know now about her and Ryan's relationship, I think it was more that she knew she wasn't going to stay with Ryan. Mia brought up a really interesting point, though, because she asks Gypsy if all of the unnecessary medical procedures and medications and things that she was on growing up could have affected her ability to have children now that she might be ready to have them. And Gypsy was saying that, you know, she got regular medical care while she was in prison, and everything, all of her, you know, tests came back normal, and there shouldn't be an issue, but she will find out, you know, when she goes to see a gynecologist or a fertility doctor in the future, she will find out if there was any long-term damage, but she doesn't feel like there is. So like I said, we're celebrating Christmas in this episode. So Gypsy is opening presents from her family. Ryan gets her a pair of designer shoes. Oh, my green screen's messing up. Oh, God. Ryan gets her a pair of designer shoes, I guess ones that she was interested in. And then her dad actually gives her a really nice necklace with an engraved, I guess, box that it came in. It had just a really sweet message inside, just letting Gypsy know that, she is strong and that he supports her and he loves her, and it had everybody crying and it was really cute. All right, cutting to the next day, Ryan and Gypsy head out on their road trip down to Louisiana, and they are, of course, followed by paparazzi, which Ryan is really fixated on. It's just, I don't know, it's a little bit weird. There's something about Ryan, like I said in the last episode, there's something about him that I'm just not liking. It's almost like, he's complaining about the paparazzi, but it almost seems like this is a fun thing for him. Like his face is saying excited, but his words are saying annoyed. You know what I mean? Like, it almost seems like he's really enjoying this attention. That's just the vibe that I'm getting. Let me know if you feel differently about it, but that's just how I'm seeing Ryan. He just seems very much like a Gypsy superfan, and we see a little bit more of that later in the episode, so I'll touch on that again. But Gypsy is just like living her life. She like doesn't even care. She's not paying attention to the paparazzi at all. She didn't even really seem like she was aware that they were following them after a while, because they followed them for a really long time. And they actually rolled up into a fast food place with them when they were stopping to get some food. Ryan could not help but tell the person working at the fast food place that Gypsy Rose Blanchard is in the car with him. So he can't, go to the next window because the paparazzi. And like, he just made it a whole thing, telling the people who worked there about Gypsy. And I don't know, the way he says Gypsy Rose Blanchard, like he says her whole name every time he says it. So I don't know. So they get through all of that. And it's so funny because Gypsy like immediately goes to start eating the fries because this girl loves her fast food fries. And he's like, oh, don't eat in front of them. They'll take pictures. So she stops. It's like this girl, she's like, I don't care. She was like about to just start eating. It didn't even like phase her that they were about to be like taking unflattering photos of her. So they're back on the road with their food and they're eating and they're talking, and Gypsy brings up to Ryan that her ex-fiance Ken texted Christy, her stepmom, when he found out that she was out of prison, or I guess he knew when she was going to be released because the whole world did. Now Ken had met Gypsy years prior to this, the same way that Ryan did, really. I'm pretty sure he just started sending her letters. Her story resonated with him in some way. I can't remember. And he wanted to talk to her. So he started sending her letters. They connected. I think that Ken is somebody that she was truly in love with. They were together for 2 years. They were engaged. And then right before they were going to get married, he broke up with her, and it was really devastating for Gypsy. Now, of course, Ryan, hearing that Ken was texting with Christy about Gypsy, you could tell he was annoyed right away. He says, too late, buddy. She's mine now. Was like his attitude about it. He also said that he doesn't feel like Christy really respects their marriage for her to entertain Ken and then to tell Gypsy about it. He was like, she could have just not told you that he texted. And I find that part really interesting because later on in the trailer for the rest of the season, we see that Rod, Gypsy's dad, blames Christy for something happening between Gypsy and Ken. So I think it's a situation where Ken was talking to Christy, Christy was talking to Gypsy, and that's how they were communicating with each other. And even Rod kind of disapproved with that. But it's interesting because that, to me, tells me that Christy likes Ken probably more than Ryan. So I don't know. I cannot wait to see this whole situation play out. All right, and then we cut to Gypsy and Ryan in their home. I think it's an apartment. It kind of looks like an apartment to me. Yeah, because they go out on the balcony at one point. I'm pretty sure it's like in a condo or an apartment. And there's one part where Gypsy is trying to get Alexa to play Taylor Swift, and it's just so funny. She was telling it to play Taylor Swift, and it demanded money from her, and she just looked so defeated. And it was so cute. I loved that part. Here's another part of the episode where Ryan acts really weird to me. He says a lot of things like, he has Gypsy now. She's mine now. I have her. I'm spending time with her. I've got her all to myself. He says stuff like that, and it just seems very possessive and weird. It's just like a weird way of communicating what he's trying to say. And he talks about like sharing Gypsy. I don't know. That to me is like, I just don't like it. It's just a very possessive way of talking about another person. Then of course we need to talk more about Gypsy and Ryan's sex life, because that is a thing that we talk about a lot apparently on this show. In this episode, they talk about lingerie that Ryan apparently bought for her when they first got together. So like while she was in prison, they had just started dating. He was buying lingerie for her that, he wanted her to wear when she got out of prison. So we look at some of the lingerie, and she talks about some things that are valid. She's got some insecurities about scars on her body from surgeries and procedures and things. And she's a little bit insecure about that. And she's like, what if I'm not what he thinks I am? And, pretty normal thoughts and feelings to have, I would say. She then goes on to say something that's it might be surprising. It wasn't really that surprising to me, but it could be for a lot of people, that she actually spent a lot of time questioning her sexuality while she was in prison, because while she was there, she experimented here and there with the girls, which I totally think is a common thing when you're in prison for that long, to, just want that kind of connection with another person. And she said she's probably kissed more women than she has men in her life. So I just found that kind of interesting, that she's so open about that. And then the family comes over to have dinner, and her dad, Rod, has such great style. I just love her dad. I don't know what it is. He just seems like a cool guy. Like, I love his look. He's got like a nice look about him in this episode. He's got like a cool dad style. And he gets them some steaks, because apparently Gypsy's never had steak before. So they make some nice steaks together, which is lovely. Gypsy decides to bring up a childhood memory with her stepmom, Christy, while they are making dinner. And she brings up a time where, because Rod was actually present throughout Gypsy's childhood. They lived in different states. So he was not around her on a daily basis, but he did attempt to be involved in her life as much as he could. And he just kind of trusted Gypsy's mother, Dee Dee, when Dee Dee was telling him all of these ailments and, disabilities and things that Gypsy had. He believed her just like everybody else. So there was a time that Gypsy was in, she said it was like some kind of sport competition type thing where she was in a wheelchair. It was like for people who are in wheelchairs, I don't know, it was some kind of event that she was a part of that her dad attended, and afterwards her mother Dee Dee told her that her father was making fun of her while she was playing this game or competing or whatever it was that she was doing. Christy says, of course, that's not at all true, and it just goes to show how much Dee Dee was manipulating Gypsy into thinking that her father didn't want her or didn't want to be in her life and didn't love her. It's really unfortunate and sad how much Dee Dee kept her away from her dad when her dad actually seems like a pretty normal guy. And the show actually shows some pictures of Rod and Gypsy when she was growing up, when she was a kid, like in her wheelchair and everything. And it's just really interesting to see. So after they have their nice little dinner, they are celebrating New Year's Eve. So they decide to get all dressed up, and Gypsy gets to wear a really cute dress and do her makeup and just feel like a princess. And she talks about how she hasn't felt that way. She hasn't looked in the mirror and saw someone who was pretty in a very long time, if really ever. She says to herself that she never thought that she could look this way. I do think that Gypsy looked really nice. This was a really cute dress, actually, and it was really cool to see like how happy she was looking in the mirror. You could really tell that, you know, she didn't really get to dress like a woman even when she was a teenager, and I believe she was like 22 when she went to prison. So I don't think she even knew that she was 22 because her mother had lied about her age so much. I don't think she even knew how old she was. So she never got to dress like a woman then, and then she was in prison. You have one outfit there. So this is the first time in her life really that she's gotten to dress like a grown woman and feel good about herself and the way that she looks. So then they celebrate New Year's, of course, as soon as Ryan sees Gypsy. Oh my gosh. There's something about the way that Ryan interacts with her that it just gives me the ick, you guys. Even when he's dancing with her, it looks like he's smothering her quite a bit, which is actually the topic of the next segment of the episode. So after they celebrate New Year's and they really have a great time, and Gypsy dances with her dad, which was really nice. Then we cut to regular life between Gypsy and Ryan. Gypsy shows Ryan the energy drink that she used to make in prison, which I feel like she should definitely, like, I don't know, on like TikTok or something, make prison recipes, because I follow a couple of people who do that. I just think it's so fascinating, like how creative people get when they're in prison, and like, you know, they don't have a lot of variety when it comes to like food and drinks and stuff. So they're able to come up with some really cool stuff. So she shows him this really disgusting energy drink that she would make in prison that was like soda and coffee and Jolly Ranchers, and it was like chunky. And Ryan was definitely not impressed with it. Then the couple start talking about wanting to adopt a puppy, which Gypsy is really excited about. Now, Gypsy did have pets growing up. I know that she had a cat, at least. I can't remember any other pets that she had, but I know that she did have pets when she was a kid. So it's not completely like a foreign thing to her. And she's kind of worried about being alone at the house while Ryan is working. So she wants a dog to keep her company. So they sit on the couch and they start looking at different dogs in the area that could be adopted. And Ryan is being really weird, and he's like hovering right over her and looking at her phone. He's just really close, and you can kind of see that she's a bit uncomfortable. So she says, you know, you're hovering, and he visibly gets kind of annoyed and he backs off. He gets up and walks around the couch, and I noticed that, first of all, for her to say it like that, to be like, you're hovering, and for him to immediately move, tells me that that's probably a conversation that they've had already, him being like really clingy and smothering. But also, I think that it annoyed him, because as soon as she says that and he gets up, he goes from looking at dogs and being really enthusiastic about it to telling her, you know, I don't know, babe, it's a lot of responsibility. You got to take care of it, and you got to walk the dog, and you got to pick up their poop. So he's just kind of going on and on about it, and it really starts to get under Gypsy's skin. She gets kind of annoyed because she's like, you know, I am not an idiot. Like, I know what it takes to take care of a dog. I've had pets before. Why are you talking to me like I'm a child? Calls her hormonal, which probably didn't help anything. So she gets really annoyed and walks outside. And she's like, I'm not an idiot. I'm not a child. And he really was kind of talking to her like she was a child. And I really think it's just a lot of foreshadowing as to why and how their relationship goes downhill so fast. But Ryan kind of downplays this whole thing. He basically blamed it on her trauma, When really, I don't think it was about that. I think I would have gotten annoyed too. He thinks that, this is just a normal husband thing. That's something that any husband would say to their wife, and that, she's easily triggered because of her trauma. And I don't like that either. I don't think that that is what that was about. So Gypsy asks him to just not talk to her that way, not to treat her like an idiot or an alien, that doesn't know anything about the outside world. Because even though, yes, she was locked up for 8.5 years, she's not completely oblivious to everything that's gone on in the world and in life. And she did live a whole life before she went to prison. So she's been outside of prison more than she's been in prisons. I think she just wants to be treated like a normal adult woman. And she doesn't want to have someone controlling her or making her feel like she can't make her own decisions and that she's like a child. But again, I just don't think that that's a normal conversation, that a husband should talk to his wife that way, It's a lot of responsibility, That's definitely something you say to your kid when they want a lizard or something. Anyway, that's it for this episode. Next week, Gypsy and Ryan head to New York, I believe, for a media type tour. They do interviews and podcasts and stuff. So we will see some of that. I will, of course, try to do a recap in a timely manner. I know I'm a little bit late, but I'm going to do my best, and I am working on a better filming setup. I'm praying that it's all going to be done by the fall, or at the very least the winter, so that I can start filming in like a nice little studio and not with this very cheap green screen situation. So if you want to hang out with me and follow my journey here on YouTube, I would greatly appreciate it if you subscribe to the channel, turn on your notifications so you don't miss my videos, and if you give this video a like, it would really help me grow here on YouTube. All right, guys, thanks for watching. I will see you again next time. Bye.